We have some more facts here from WikiLeaks about what really goes on with Democratic insiders. So first and foremost, we learned that President Obama was emailing back and forth with Citigroup executives, and they helped him pick members of his administration. That's lovely. So they released some emails of Obama from before he was president, and it's under the old email that he used. I haven't had a chance to go through all of them, but this is one of the big stories that broke as a result of this, is that casually emailing back and forth with Citigroup executives. And so, sadly, I wasn't surprised by that. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, would you look at that? The Democratic Party, who pretend to really be for change, are total insiders. But the part that I actually thought was particularly nefarious is the framing of the email itself, because the framing is, hey, I'm not just going to tell you as a Citigroup executive, I'm not just going to tell you who you should have in your administration. Let me give you a list of a diverse group of people, because, you know, we're so progressive. So notice, this is the new trick from the Democratic Party. They want to be neoliberals, so they still want to, deregulate Wall Street and cut taxes for the rich and still be far too interventionist on foreign policy. But what they do is they turn around to the base and say, but what? I mean, my cabinet is like 50% women, and I have an Indian American in there. I have a bunch of Black Americans. I have Hispanic Americans. I have all different kinds of people, very diverse faces that, look, I have a Muslim in my administration. I'm so progressive. So it's fucking window dressing, man. It's window dressing. And what a sad state of affairs if that's what they claim victory on and what they say is an accomplishment as they continue many of George W. Bush's policies. Like, sure, we're a lot like Dick Cheney, but we have diversity in this administration. Yeah, we're so good, aren't we? So emailing back and forth with Citigroup executives. You just want to take a shower as you read it. Okay, so that's the first thing that we learned. Now we move on to Hillary here, and we learned, quote, Hillary's campaign considered the CEOs of Apple, Coca-Cola, General Motors, Starbucks, and Xerox as potential VPs. She is so immensely out of touch that it's hard for me to wrap my mind around it. I already knew she was out of touch. Like, anybody who really is a political junkie and they follow this stuff closely, you knew she's out of touch. But the extent to how out of touch she is fucking legendary. You're gonna float mega rich CEOs as a VP? What the fuck do you gain by that? What do you gain? The main criticism of you from your base is she's way too comfy with corporations and corporate insiders and billionaires. And her campaign was discussing, hey, shouldn't we have a CEO, maybe a billionaire as a VP? I can't, man. I can't. It's like how I wish there was anybody in her administration with common sense who would just fucking keep it real with her. And just say, when somebody floats that idea, just say, excuse me, that is literally the dumbest fucking thing I've ever heard in my life. Do you not know how people view you? Do you not know what their concerns are about you? How out of touch are... It's amazing. She's such a creature of Washington. She's such a corrupt insider that she thinks that's a good idea. And then, yeah, believe me, if this were to happen, she would turn around and she would immediately try to spin it. If she did end up picking one of these people, she would turn around and spin it like, I mean, look, the CEO of Apple, don't the kids like Apple, right? With those Mac computers and the iPhone and whatnot. It's technology. It's the interwebs. So, but this is good, right? And then, I should also say, it's not like the person who she ended up going with is actually much better. Like, I'm ripping her for considering rich CEOs for the position, but she picked Tim Kaine. Tim Kaine is the most milquetoast, center-right kind of Democrat she could have picked. And by the way, this doesn't even, check the diversity box, which is the first one they try to check when they're doing this window dressing liberalism. Like, okay, we'll still be neoliberal, but hey, diverse faces. But with Tim Kaine, they didn't even do that. They're like, okay, now forget, don't even pretend to try. And you want to know why? Because their thinking was, just like the old textbook says, which by the way does not apply anymore, their thinking was, well, I mean, we got to try to pick somebody to get moderates and centrists, as if she's not already centrist, hawkish, corporatist enough. They're like, well, that's the direction we got to go. So, in other words, snub your base, don't make your base happy, don't go to the left, don't actually care about the shit you pretended to care about in the primary, run right. So get a boring-ass white man who is an ultimate insider himself. He's also for the TPP, and he annoys the base across the board. So this shows you. Now that leads to my favorite leak. Clinton's team apparently caught on to the fact that millennials, quote, seem to have a refined radar for political BS. Oh my goodness. I want to turn that quote into baby oil and rub it all over my body. Quote, seem to have a refined radar for political BS. Now, they say that, so somebody in her campaign is like, yeah, I mean, come on, millennials, you can't get anything by millennials. But then they do all the things that made millennials go, what are you doing? Fuck you, we don't like you. Picking Tim Kaine, considering all these CEOs. I mean, the list goes on and on of, her inartful, disgusting, sad flip-flops. I'm more progressive than Bernie Sanders on Wall Street. And by that, I mean I'm not progressive at all on it. Yeah. Oh, God. So somebody in her campaign knew, but they still went with the shittiest strategies ever, which is why, she's up 5.5 points on average against the most disliked candidate in U.S. history, in Donald Trump. There was one time when his unfavorables were 63%. That's unheard of. Anybody else, even plastic boy Martin O'Malley running against Donald Trump right now would be up at least 12. But don't get me wrong, like that's a solid lead in the sense that it's very unlikely he'll win the election at this point. But I'm not kidding when I say I think the election would be 100%. If it was Martin O'Malley, Bernie Sanders, your Uncle Ted, who doesn't know anything about politics, but he's kind of affable and people go, Ted, I like Ted. That fucking guy would be crushing Donald Trump by more than Hillary, because Hillary is deeply unlikable. So, and there were other leaks, we don't need to get into it, but there were other leaks where Neera Tanden, of course, her right-hand woman, John Podesta, they were going back and forth. There was a title on Think Progress, the blog for the Center for American Progress, liberal think tank, that was critical of Hillary. It said something like Hillary's unfair attack on Bernie Sanders' single-payer plan, something to that effect. And so John Podesta emails Neera Tanden, or vice versa, and they're like, hey, maybe we can work on those headlines a little bit, you know what I'm saying? And then the other one responds, yeah, let me talk to Judd Legum. They're crazy lefties. Literally, that's what they quote, they're crazy lefties down there at Think Progress. So, don't worry, we'll make them a little more establishment-y. You know what I'm saying? Jed, go fix the headlines because they make too much sense and they're too accurate. Water it down. Make it more neoliberal. Thank you very much. So it's just the leaks keep coming and keep coming and keep coming. And by the way, just final point. I know I'm dragging on and on in this segment, but to have, in the midst of a conversation about the leaks, to say, well, they came from Russia. Yeah. That's not an argument. That's not a counter-argument. That's what we call a red herring. So there's two separate discussions to have. One of them is, where did the leaks come from and why do we think it's coming from there? Fine discussion to have. But that is a distinctly separate conversation from the substance of the leaks and what that proves and what that shows and what the implications are of how this Democratic Party and Hillary's campaign functions. Two separate conversations. But what are the Democratic loyalist hacks trying to do now? Muddy the waters. Anytime anybody brings up an accurate attack against Hillary Clinton based on her words or John Podesta's words or her campaign's words, Neera Tanden's words, whatever, she goes, yeah, ha-ha, Putin stooge. That's what Trump is. Putin stooge. Russia. We got you. No, you didn't fucking get us. You got yourself. That's what somebody does when they have no logical response to the question at hand. Hey, it appears like you guys are mocking the Democratic base and calling them the Red Army. So Democratic base is communist according to you guys, and you scoff at them. But Russia leaked it. Yeah, and what does that have to do? It says in there you're mocking them. Hillary, you say your preferred Syria policy kills civilians. How do you answer that? Russia! We got you, stupid liberal. Yeah, no. I really think you got yourself.